Okay, we are recording, and I'm going to start the presentation now. I have to go to share, and share alike. There it is. And excuse me, this looks funny. Screen sharing. There we go. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Oxop review training. Very good. Okay, we are recording this now. This is the repeat on Friday the 16th of August. And we are talking about chapter 3 of auxiliary seamanship, which is internal combustion engines. The references are going to be Chapman's and the auxiliary study guide. Internal combustion engine. First off, of course, it is a little bit silly. You'll agree that a sailor that has an electric auxiliary on his boat is talking about internal combustion engines on powerboats. All I can say is that I was the sucker who got designed with this, and I know a little something about a little something. So here we go. Internal combustion engines, they make the boat go. There are diesel engines and gasoline-fueled engines, but they all work by changing heat or chemical energy of the fuel into heat energy in the cylinders and turning that into work by pushing a piston down and turning a crankshaft, which turns a propeller. The pistons go in an up and down motion, and so they're classified as reciprocating engines. The internal combustion engine is distinct from the external combustion engine, which you all know as a steam locomotive. And this is what we're talking about. Excuse me. This is the basic internal combustion engine. We have a combustion chamber with a piston at one end of it. Fuel and air is admitted through a valve at one part of it. It's compressed, ignited. The burning of the fuel increases the temperature and pressure inside the combustion chamber, which forces the piston down, turning the crankshaft.
Hi, Chaz?
The slideshow isn't up.
Yeah. We only see the first, two at the bottom of the page, but there's no slideshow.
All right,
No.
I'm here.
Okay, wait a minute here.
Let me see. You might have to, let me see. Get my video back up. You might have to, you had the slideshow up, but I saw some arrows at the top. Try to put it up again.
Okay,
Oh.
I just did.
There you go. Now I see it.
This is now they can see the application. Okay.
All right.
Now, can everybody see the cross section of an internal combustion engine?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Do I need to talk about it again? Combustion chamber, piston, crankshaft turns, pressure increases in here, pushes the piston down. Okay, now can I make the slide advance is the next question. My slides won't advance. Why is that? There we go. Just need to be talked to. Okay. Gasoline engine ignition principles. A gasoline engine runs at a lower compression ratio and uses a electric spark to ignite the fuel. The fuel and air is mixed in a carburetor, or if it's fuel injected, the fuel is shot directly into the combustion chamber. The fuel air mixture is ignited by an electric spark from the spark plugs. A diesel engine, named for Rudolf Diesel, German fellow, takes atmospheric air in, doesn't add fuel to it, compresses it in the cylinder to a greater extent, And then just as it reaches the highest point of compression, it squirts fuel into the combustion space where the temperature has gotten so high that the fuel ignites by itself. So there's no carburetor involved. It requires clean fuel to work properly and pressure with no air bubbles. And the compression heats the ignited fuel with no spark plug involved. Interesting sidelight, the very first diesel engines, they tried to use them to burn coal. It didn't work. Okay, all reciprocating engines have a definite operating cycle. There are two of them, either two-stroke or four strokes. One stroke is a one up or down movement of the piston. Each piston completes two strokes for every revolution of the crankshaft. So the piston goes up when the crankshaft turns up, and it goes down when the crankshaft turns down. A four-stroke operating cycle, the piston goes up and or down 4 times for every power stroke. So the crankshaft revolves twice for one cycle. So 1 power stroke for every 2 revolutions of the crankshaft. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The operating cycle of the 4-stroke engine is first stroke is intake, second is compression, third is power stroke, and the last is the exhaust stroke. Here's what happens in the intake stroke. The intake valve is opened to the manifold and the carburetor. The exhaust valve is closed. The piston is moving down, so it is drawing in a combination of fuel and air into the combustion chamber, the cylinder. Then the compression stroke. The piston reaches the bottom and starts to come up. Both intake and exhaust valves close. The fuel-air mixture is compressed. And then a split second before the piston gets all the way to the top of the combustion chamber, the spark fires and ignites the fuel. The power stroke, again, intake exhaust valves are closed and the piston is moving down. The burning fuel has increased the heat and pressure on the combustion chamber, which is pushing the piston down, making the crankshaft turn, and that's the only time that power is translated to the crankshaft, which is why you usually have more than one piston. And finally, the exhaust stroke. The exhaust valve opens, the intake valve is closed, the piston moves up and pushes all the exhaust byproducts of combustion out the exhaust valve. Now that the piston arrives at the top, and we start all over again with the intake stroke. So it just keeps going up and down. And you're probably confused by all the literature. So here's the picture of how it works. The intake stroke, piston moving down, fuel air is being drawn in. Compression, piston moves up, valves are closed, the fuel air mixture is compressed. Spark plug fires, the power stroke, the hot gas here pushes the piston down, and the exhaust stroke. The piston moves up, the exhaust valve is open, the combustion byproducts are forced out. And the slang expression for this is suck, squeeze, bang, blow. 2-stroke engines. Marvels of ingenuity. Most diesels are 2 strokes, or for gasoline engines, they're outboards or small engines like lawnmower engines or the kind of little engine that uses the grass trimmers. It has 1 compression and 1 power stroke. Every time the crankshaft rotates once, you get 1 complete cycle. 1 power stroke for every revolution of the crankshaft. Twice as many power strokes as in a 4-stroke engine, but little less efficient. So the cylinder has an exhaust valve, but no intake valve. Air comes through ports in the cylinder wall, but they give excellent service. So diesels use two-stroke diesels, four-stroke diesels. A lot of gasoline engines now use a fuel injection system rather than a carburetor. You have a little tiny pump at the top of the piston of the cylinder. At just the right time in the cycle, it squirts a measured amount of fuel into the combustion chamber. When the diesel engine gets the squirt, the fuel ignites by itself just because it's so high pressure and hot in the top of the cylinder. The gasoline engine still has the spark plug, but the fuel is delivered by the little pump. There are two systems. One is the unit injector, and one is the common rail. That's most common one. There's one pump. Hoses or tubes run to all the cylinders. The fuel is under pressure from the tank to the cylinder, and a cam trips the injector. The system, the one big drawback of all fuel injection systems is that the system cannot have any air in it. That will stop a diesel in its tracks, is if there's any air in the fuel system. I wish that thing would go away. Okay, here's a picture of the two-stroke engine. Now this is interesting. This is a gasoline one. It's got a spark plug in it. If it was a two-stroke diesel, this would be a fuel injector. Now in the induction stroke, a deeper piston, it's moving upwards. It's compressing the fuel air mixture that's in the top of the cylinder. It has slid over the exhaust port, closing it, and slid over the transfer port, I should say, sorry, closing that. So it's pure compression. But while it's moving upwards, it's creating a vacuum in the crankcase, and it's drawing fuel air mixture into the crankcase. Then, when it reaches the top, the spark plug fires. You get the power stroke, which pushes the piston down. When it goes past the exhaust port, there's enough pressure remaining in the cylinder to push the exhaust byproducts out the exhaust port. Then it gets down a little farther, and it has compressed the fuel and air mixture that's in the crankcase has been compressed by the piston moving down, and the transfer port opens, and the pressure here pushes fresh fuel and air into the cylinder. That's insanely clever. Now, one of the things that puzzled me for the longest time was, why do two-stroke engines have to have oil mixed with the fuel? And this is why. Because the crankcase is being used as part of the charging cycle. It's fuel and air is drawn into it, slightly compressed and forced into the combustion chamber when the piston is all the way down. And if you didn't have oil mixed with the fuel when it's in here, all the crankcase and all these bearings down here would overheat and freeze up. So that's why. Carburetor. A device used to send a fine spray of fuel into a moving stream of air. It'll mix the fuel and the air and then induct it into the cylinder heads. On the gasoline engines, it's used to control the fuel air mixture. Diesels don't have carburetors. A lean mixture, there's less gas in the carburetor, or less gas in the mixture. So it burns more efficiently. A rich mixture, there's more gas in the mixture, a higher percentage. This is controlled by the choke. Used to be that you had a knob on your dashboard, you could pull it in and out to adjust the choke. Now chokes are all automatic. When an engine is cold, it needs a richer mixture in order to start and keep running. When it's running and it's heated up good, it needs less fuel in the mixture, and it'll lean it out and the choke will open up. And here's the section of the carburetor. Got fuel here. Air is drawn down through the carburetor by the vacuum effect of the cylinders and the pistons moving in the cylinders. This little narrow stretch causes the air to speed up, which creates a little vacuum right here. And that sucks the fuel up through this straw, and it mixes then with the air in this part. Down here is the throttle valve. When it's vertical, you've got more fuel and air going to the engine and it runs faster. When you stop it down a little bit, you've got less fuel and air in the going into the engine, and it slows down. And the choke controls the amount of air that's passing through this. So when the choke is partially closed, less air, more fuel. Compression ratios, we touched on this a little bit. A diesel compression ratio is 14:1. The cylinder head temperature will get up to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So when the fuel is squirted in, there's air, there's high temperature, there's combustion. So diesels are 14 to 16:1. Gas compression ratios are 4 to 8:1. There were actually diesels for a while that had two pistons in one cylinder, and they went towards each other, but to get the really high compression ratios. Okay, the power system is the cylinders, pistons, connecting rods, and crankshafts. All the stuff we've been talking about so far. Pistons move up and down in the cylinder. They're connected to the crankshaft. The cylinder is a cast iron block, cast metal block, the hardened steel alloy sleeve that the piston actually slides in. The crankshaft is at the bottom, changes the reciprocation motion of the piston and rods into a rotary motion of the crankshaft, which turns the propeller, which is the purpose of the exercise. Valves and camshafts. The valves, again, a four-cycle engine has two valves, intake and exhaust. A two-cycle doesn't have valves per se, so it doesn't have a camshaft and it doesn't have valves. Just the sliding piston does all the work. So here is a four-cycle. You see this gear is half the diameter of this one. So this is the camshaft. These are the cams. They're little lumpy things. As the camshaft rotates, they come around, push down on the valve to open it at exactly the right time, which lets either fuel into the combustion chamber or lets the exhaust gas out. Okay, air. A four-stroke, air enters through the intake valve, and a two-stroke, air enters through ports in the cylinder wall. So again, the two-stroke engines don't have camshafts. Four-stroke engines have to. Lubrication, vital to the health of the engine. The tolerances in the internal combustion engine, one of the reasons that the internal combustion engine was invented when it was, is because the level of machining got to the point where they could actually make something that worked. Oil is necessary to assist in engine cooling and reducing friction. Remember that, you're going to see it again. There's a few oil pump in the bottom of the oil pan, an oil filter, which cleans the oil that's being delivered, which you need to change every 5,000 miles. If it's in a boat, you need to change it every couple of years. And two-stroke engines need oil in the fuel to lubricate the crankcase. Cooling system. There's always on a boat, back up a little bit. In an automobile, the cooling system works with a radiator where air is blown through to cool the cooling fluid in the engine. In a boat, the ambient water that you're going through is used to cool the engine. So there's a holding tank, a circulating pump, and a heat exchanger to get rid of the heat into the water. So both seawater and fresh water can be used for that. Fresh water is used in the engine, and then you have seawater going through the other side of the cooling system. Some engines used seawater running through the block as cooling. So they just sucked it up, ran it through the engine, and pumped it out. That was not a good idea because you get all kinds of exciting critters and stuff running through your engine, and you'll get corrosion and generalized crud. So this is what most boats have. This thing in the middle, this is the engine. It has water running through it, clean, fresh water with ethylene glycol. Somebody say something? Bob, are you there? Hi, Bob Allen.
Hi, sorry, I didn't mean to unmute, sorry.
That's okay. Look at the airplanes. Don't bother with me. Okay, we have clear fresh water with maybe ethylene glycol and some anti-corrosion chemicals running through the block. It comes up to the header tank and runs down into the heat exchanger. Now, water from the lake is sucked up, run through the raw water cooling pump, pumped through the heat exchanger, and at that point, the heat from the engine is transferred to the water from the body that you're traveling in. Then it comes up to the exhaust and out the exhaust manifold, and the water from the engine then is drawn back in and circulates through the engine. So instead of a radiator using air, we've got a heat exchanger that has water in it, which is much more efficient. Then there's the electrical system. Generator or alternator produces the electric current to operate the vessel's systems and charge the battery. Voltage regulator keeps the battery from being overcharged, or the battery cutout keeps it from discharging through the alternator and generator at low speeds, running it as a motor, if you will. The starter is an electric motor. Diesels have a bigger electric motor than gas engines do because of all that heavy compression. Some really big diesels have a small gasoline engine to turn them over. The battery turns the starter motor, and for a gas engine supplies electricity for the electrical ignition system. A diesel requires twice the power of a gas engine, again, because of all that compression, and a wiring harness to make it all, hook it all together. And here's the picture. We have an ignition, we have the battery, an ignition switch, the ignition coil, which makes the whole thing work. And this is the little cam and the breaker points. Nowadays, this is all done by a computer with very heavy solid state systems instead of mechanical points, but you still find a few engines that work this way. Across the points is a condenser, which is like a capacitor. Its sole purpose is to damp down the arcing that would otherwise ruin the points when they open and close. And then we have the distributor. This makes one revolution for every two revolutions of the crankshaft. And it's set up so that it points at the wire from the spark plug just as that spark plug needs to fire. And we've got the wiring harness, which hooks the wires from the spark plugs to the distributor, and the spark plug, where we have the spark at the bottom end, which is in the cylinder. So the ignition coil creates the spark in the spark plug. And the way that works is it's like a very small, stupid transformer. You have a lot of turns of wire that are hooked up to the points and the low voltage system. And then there's another coil of very few turns inside that. And what happens is The points close. This allows electricity into the low voltage side of the coil, which generates a magnetic field, just like an electromagnet. Then the points open. That magnetic field collapses, and the energy that was in it has to go somewhere. It can't go back to the battery, so it goes out the other side of the coil, which, because it has fewer turns, it multiplies the voltage. So a high voltage comes out the other end of the coil. That's all done controlled by the mechanical breaker points. They close, charges the coil, they open, the coil discharges. The condenser keeps the arcing from going on over the points. It's just a little electronic miracle. The distributor is the selector switch. It points to the spark plugs in turn and fires one at a time so that the spark is fired at the exact right time. And the spark plugs provide the fire. That's where the spark takes place. And they will wear out after a while, which is why they can be changed out. So the spark comes from the coil, not the battery. The primary ignition circuit, the low voltage side, that's all this stuff down here. As you said, the battery, the coil, the points that open and close and create the magnetic field in the coil, and the discharge, and the condenser that keeps the spark. Then the high voltage side is the distributor and the high voltage side of the coil and the spark plugs. Okay, so you're out in your boat and the engine stops. What do you do about it besides stick your head in the engine compartment and immediately get motion sick and throw up? You need to find out, you have to have the correct fuel-air mixture. So you need to find out if the fuel is getting to the engine and if the air is getting to the engine. And that's a really common reason for the engine to quit is you ran out of fuel, or the fuel line is clogged, or the fuel filters are clogged, or something has happened to the fuel system. Compression, you're not going to be able to do much of anything about out in the middle of the ocean. Spark plugs, you have to see if the electrical system is working properly, if you've got spark. Again, with more modern engines, it's solid state electronics, so they're much less likely to have a problem. Diesel engines, you've got to have the correct fuel pressure and no air in the fuel line. So high compression in the engine and no air in the fuel line, because again, nothing is going to stop an engine faster than having air in the fuel system. Again, a diesel, one of the nice things about a diesel is they'll tend to run even when every wire is falling out of the boat. Now, review questions. Okay, I have reworked these and I put all the questions from both the auxiliary aux-C manual and from this on this page, so we can just start at one end and go to the other end. There might be a glitch in here, I hope not. Bob likes to do this by asking people to answer the question one at a time, and he goes down through it. And we've got so few we can do that. So start, Julio, Rudy. All reciprocating engines have a definite operation cycle and.
Let's see, all reciprocating. Operate on either two-stroke or reciprocating. The number of cycles, cylinders. Two-stroke cycle is used only in diesel. Definitely.
You got it?
Reciprocating.
Yeah, don't sweat it out too much, Rudy. Just take a
I'm
crack
gonna,
at it.
yeah. Trying to remember because it's a different order from the questions that I already answered it in the manual. Let's see, number of cycles depend on the reciprocating engines have a definite cycle. and operating either A, operating on either two-stroke or four-stroke cycle.
Yep, okay. Okay, Bob Allen doesn't do me any good. Jennifer, no, wait a minute, Jennifer doesn't do me any good. Who, okay, so we only have 2 students here, right?
And
Jennifer's running the thing and Bob is kibitzing, so Sarah, camshaft does what?
D.
D, you say?
See the,
Nope,
oh, it went away. It didn't.
there. Actually, it's C, used to rotate the cams that open the valves. Okay, now, review question 3. I guess I gotta go back to Rudy. Diesel
Okay.
engines have high compression ratios in order to,
too easy, so understand. C.
yeah, compressed air for generated for fuel, okay. Whoop, I missed one. There we go. Sarah, a 2-stroke engine.
Well, I wanted to say A, but I think it's D.
Actually, it is A, has a
Okay.
compression and a power stroke.
I was confused by the wording on D because it sounded almost the same.
Mhm.
So
It is confusing, probably intentionally. Okay, 5, Rudy again, in a diesel engine fuel.
Yeah, A. Right,
A is
fuel, yeah,
right there, yep.
rather than a carburetor.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay, 6, Sarah.
carburetor,
Yeah, you've got it.
Yep.
right?
Okay, it's 7, again, Rudy. Lubricating oil, this is a little subtle.
Yeah, it's used only to lubricate, it's always under constant, it's used to reduce friction and increase cooling, D.
He is it. Okay, 8, which of the following groups of items are common in both diesel and 4-cycle gasoline engines? Sarah, this is really tricky. Tell you what, I'm just going to give this one to you.
All right, it's either B or C.
And it's I lost my cursor,
Is it C?
but
Okay.
it is, yeah, it is C.
The other two
And
had carburetor in them, so I knew that wasn't right.
right, exactly. The primary, okay, Rudy, the primary circuit of the ignition system for gasoline engines includes the
Yeah.
primary, the low voltage side.
Right, yeah, I just, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
The secondary. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, so it includes, let's see. I have here. The ignition switch. Let's see. And the primary ignition circuit. Ignition coil. Ignition coil.
Make your best guess, Rudy.
Ignition. And ignition switch, ignition coil. So let's see. Oh, C.
That's it. Yeah, C.
Sorry.
And 10 is high voltage in the spark, and the spark plug is produced in the. Sarah, you can't miss this one. I told you all about how it worked.
Um, I know, D, ignition coil.
D is it, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and yeah. Now, the rest of these are from the book, so that it doesn't have the fancy little clicker on it. What ignites the fuel in a diesel engine, Rudy?
Let's see. Nice spark ignition. Fuel in a diesel. The spark plug?
Nope, no spark plugs in a
Oh,
diesel.
no,
The
it's
heat of compression.
Yeah, compression.
Okay, Sarah, what list the operations performed by each of the four strokes of a four-stroke engine?
It's gonna be the intake, compression, but they want to know the details on that.
No, just what the four words.
Okay,
Intake is one, compression is one other one. There are two more.
each of the,
You got intake, you got compression. What are the other two?
I don't have.
Okay. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust.
Got it.
Like I say, suck, squeeze, bang, blow, if you're slightly vulgar. Okay, Rudy, list the operations performed by each of the two strokes of a two-stroke cycle engine.
I think it's the power stroke and compression stroke.
Yeah, induction, compression, and ignition exhaust. So
Induction. Okay.
yeah, induction is when it's drawing the fuel, it draws the fuel in from the crankcase, compresses it, and then the second part of it, that is ignition and exhausting it. Okay, the exhaust port is open at the bottom of which stroke in a two-stroke engine?
The
There,
bottom
yeah,
of the bottom of the compression.
actually the power stroke.
The exhaust.
You get the power stroke and the piston is pushed down and then the exhaust port opens.
Oh, okay. In my, I have the visual right. I have the word wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, valves are opened by. Now the books, okay, the book says
Oh,
one something.
The valves are open by, let's see, I got the action of the camshaft driven by the crankshaft through a chain of gears.
Whoops. Yeah, the action of the camshaft. Okay, list the name. Okay, you up to this one, Sarah? List the working parts of the power system.
I'm not.
Okay, cylinders, pistons, connecting rod, and crankshaft.
Okay.
So the cylinder is the space with the combustion chamber. The piston is the part that moves up and down. It's connected to the connecting rod, which is hooked to the crankshaft and makes the whole thing go around. Yeah, it's in the auxiliary student guide has pictures of all of this. Okay. Tell you what, Sarah, this one has the answers at the bottom, so try this one. What change is designed to change rotary motion to intermittent reciprocating motion to open the valves?
Crankshaft.
Aha, actually, it's the
Camshaft.
camshaft, but the manual does say crankshaft.
Okay.
So it's interesting. The book answer is the wrong one, is incorrect, but it's the book answer. This drives Bob and me crazy. Okay, Rudy, what are the parts of the fuel system of a gasoline engine?
So the fuel system of the gasoline engine. Typical information. So this the geez, gasoline control. Oh, sorry. Parts Oh, okay, the fuel pump, the carburetor, the float.
Yeah.
The main jet system and the idling system. Oh, fuel
Oh.
tank, fuel pump, carburetor, fuel lines and air pass. I see. Okay.
Mhm. Okay, Sarah, what's a rich mixture?
That is more gas to air. and
Right,
is less-
percentage of gasoline vapor is high.
Yeah.
And Rudy, what's a lean mixture?
Yeah, it's a low percentage of gasoline vapor in the fuel.
Very good. Okay, got it. Okay, Sarah, the something provides a rich mixture for slow engine speeds and starting a carbureted engine.
The throttle. Let's say, hold on.
Next.
The choke.
The choke, right. Okay, marine engines are cooled by Rudy.
By a water cooling system to
Yep.
carry away the excess heat produced by the cylinders.
Yep, though the magic word was water, a separate
Okay.
system or direct from environment. Okay, I don't know, you up to that one, Sarah?
Nope.
Okay, you want to make a couple of guesses and we'll see how close you come?
You have the battery,
Mhm,
the spark plug,
mhm,
condenser,
mhm,
coil, is it,
mhm,
the key,
mhm. Yep,
and
oh, yeah, okay, here we go.
okay.
Coil you had,
I had that.
condenser you
that piece,
had.
that piece.
spark plugs,
The wiring
Oh.
harness I didn't have, or distributor, I think.
distributor,
Yeah,
okay.
the key could be connected to the wiring harness. You were in there. That was really good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so you've got the battery, the coil, the points, the condenser, the distributor, the spark plugs, and the wires. Okay. Okay, now Rudy, you only have to do half of that. What's the primary ignition circuit?
Oh, yeah, the gas, that's the. Oh, yeah, okay, so that's, see the battery, the ignition coil, the ignition switch, the breaker points and condenser.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
You got it. Yeah, okay. And okay, Sarah, now this the secondary ignition parts. That's the high voltage side. You already did some of these.
Yeah, the distributor,
Yeah.
spark plugs,
Yeah.
um. The
The high side of the ignition coil was what we were looking for.
okay, okay.
But you got distributor and spark plugs. So yeah, you got it. And that's the end of chapter 3. I'm sure you're relieved. Now this is the largest reciprocating engine ever built so far.
Wow.
13.5 meters high. That's over 40 feet. 27 meters long, 2,300 tons, producing 80,000 kilowatts or 107,400 horsepower. And that, and here, those are people.
So that's for marine purposes? That's in a ship?
I think actually this is a stationary power generating one, but the ships have engines almost as big as this anymore. So there we are. Okay, so it's usual for us to take a little break at this point if you want to. Otherwise, we can surge ahead to chapter 4.
All right. I gotta go off, so.
Right, Rudy. Thank you for
Thank
stopping
you,
by.
everybody. Yeah,
I hope you learned something.
I certainly did. Thank you. Appreciate everybody. Bye.
Okay.
Chaz, this was great. This was very helpful. I was sitting here taking notes. So there's I don't feel there's a need for me to stick around for chapter 4 because I could write it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Thank you.
Sarah,
This was great.
okay, thank you very much for coming by. I don't know why I didn't see you in the thing or I would have picked on you.
Oh, well, I'm happy you didn't. It
Yeah,
was-
I think you were off the bottom of the listing of people.
All right.
So sorry, I would have asked you some questions in there. Okay, thank you for coming though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sarah, do you need to take a break or can we go for another like 40 minutes or so?
Yeah, give me like 2 minutes to go get a water.
Sure,
then-
sure. I
and I'll
gotta
be-
figure out where the thing is.
Okay, cool. That'll probably be enough time.
Yeah. Uh,
What are you trying to do, Chance?
okay, I'm trying to get screen share the next thing
Okay.
and I've got it up. So now I want to go back to here and go to share. And there it is. Share and slideshow. From beginning. Okay. Okay, Jennifer, can you see the Marlin Spike seamanship?
I see it. If you put it on the actual slide, like slideshow, there should be a, where is it? Maybe double click on the Marlin Spikes seamanship thing. There should be a thing where you can
Full screen it.
full screen it.
Oh, okay, wait.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, we're trying to figure out how to do this here. Whoop. That's as full screened as I can get.
Huh.
I think.
There's, oh, at the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom of the screen, you should see, and I just moved my thing. It looks like a screen of some sort. Yeah. It's right by, at the very bottom to your, I guess,
Left,
right,
yeah.
left or right or left.
What's at the bottom, left to the bottom, side.
Mike says left of the volume. It should have like a little slide, like, you know, the old fashioned slide that you pull down from the ceiling. There's a little image of that at the very bottom next to like notes, comments. And if you click on that, it should give you the slideshow. There also, I mean, you could continue like this too.
Okay, because yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't see it, that's no problem. You should, I mean, you could still see the slide.
Okay, now I've completely lost the
Oh.
No, I don't want to leave the meeting, damn it. I want to.
There you go.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Well, I've got. Okay. How odd. Okay, Marlin Spike seamanship. Okay, are we all ready? I think Jennifer, you're the only actual student left now. But I don't care. I'll teach to one person. Okay, so Marlin Spike. That's the fancy word for knot tying. The reference text again is Chapman's Piloting and Seamanship or the Auxiliary Seamanship Student Study Guide. So rope or line. It's actually, they call it rope when it comes from the rope walk or on the roll or on the boat, it's called line. There's all these different materials and methods of construction. Different ways of making rope are braided, strand twist, or double braided. And this is what they look like. This is braided line, 3/8. This is a smaller braided line. This is the 3-strand twist. It's 3 strands. Each strand is made up of smaller strands. And this is double braided. You can't see it, but inside that is straight strands. And then it has this woven jacket over the outside to make it easier to hold on to. The basic materials that the line is made of are natural, synthetic, or wire. Natural rope is made of cotton or manila. There's also sisal and jute natural fibers, which aren't used all that much on boats, but they're out there and they're available. Cotton line, basically clothesline. The advantages are that it's very pliable, it runs smoothly through blocks, it's inexpensive. The disadvantages are it's only half the strength of manila, it's susceptible to rot, and it can stretch, especially when it's wet. Another natural line is manila. This is made from plant fibers that are native to the Philippines. It's about the most popular natural fiber line going. The advantages are it's readily available, it's inexpensive, and it's very durable. Disadvantages, it will deteriorate if it's stowed wet, damp, or left out in the bright sunlight. Manila has been virtually replaced by synthetic lines, especially for running rigging. And synthetic lines. They're almost impervious to salt, air, water, and anything else that could destroy natural line. It's tougher and stronger for their size than almost any other line material. They last a long time, and they do a better job than practically anything else. The disadvantages are that they tend to unlay when cut. So you have to stop or seal them off immediately, or even before you cut them. The ways of doing that is whipping the line with a finer line, or dipping them into a rope whipping liquid, which I've never used, but it's available. Or if it's the synthetics, you can melt the end of the line so that it doesn't unravel, but it creates this big lump at the end of it. Or my favorite is to use a piece of marine grade adhesive lined heat shrink tubing. Slip a little bit over that and heat it up, and it will close down over the end of the line and seal it off. So that's a very useful way of doing it. You can also then, after you do that, you can whip over the outside of it. Now, I've got to figure out what happened to my picture is the problem. Okay, now I hope I can get that back. But here's a piece of line that has the actually that's tape. Where? This isn't the good one, but here's a piece that's been sealed with the heat shrink tubing. And now I gotta find my thing again. Sorry, I've lost the
I can still see the PowerPoint.
okay, well I can't, I got you guys.
What you looking for?
I'm trying to get the screen share back up. I just got a little tiny picture. Now I've got you guys.
Is there a green arrow in the corner of that little tiny picture?
Yeah, it's up and down.
Let's see. Usually there's like a view. If you go into the top view,
Yeah,
you might be able to, let me see. Side gallery, multi-speaker, immersive. I don't know what that is.
there we go. Okay, I found it.
Okay. I'm listening too, so it is interesting.
Okay. Now I've got all kinds of junk in the picture here that I shouldn't have. All right. Ah, bless America. Okay, we did this work the last time. Okay, I've never had this problem before. No, you don't need to look at me. Oh, okay. Oh, that was it. There we go. All right. Now, we talked about synthetic rope disadvantages. Now it won't advance. Okay, 4 types of synthetic ropes: nylon, dacron, polypropylene, and polyethylene. Nylon, this is the most common probably. It's the highest elasticity, can absorb 7 times the shock load of manila. It makes it good for towing and for mooring. High resistance to rot, high abrasive resistance. It's twice as strong as manila. You can use nylon of a smaller diameter. It's much cheaper in the long run, extremely flexible, and you don't need to break it in. But when it reaches the end of its elongation, it will snap like a rubber band and become extremely dangerous. It'll come whipping back at you. So that's one of the reasons why if you're using a winch with nylon on it, you don't stand right behind it. You stand off to the side. And you don't overload it. Dacron, as it's a polyester, it has all the properties of nylon, but it's not as elastic. It's light in weight, mostly replace cotton line. It's good for halyards and sheets because it doesn't stretch a lot. Polyethylene, the advantages are it floats. The disadvantages has low abrasion resistance, not nearly as it's driving me nuts here. Wish I could get rid of that. It's not nearly as smooth as other synthetics, and it knots need to be seized. I'm sorry, I can't even read my own things here. Okay, not nearly as supple as other synthetics, and knots need to be secured. Okay, polypropylene. This is polypropylene. Its advantages are that it floats. The same disadvantages as the polyethylene. Polyethylene, it's stronger than when wet than the polypropylene is. Wire rope. It's generally confined for use on sailing vessels and larger boats. Many strands of wire are wound over an inner core of either wire or fabric, like cotton or synthetic. The core provides a source of lubrication when it's oiled or graphited and eases the friction of the wires, provides some elasticity or give and some flexibility. Now, this is the thing. Stainless steel is mostly used anymore for small boat use, but the book still calls these out, and it will be on the test. That there's 5 grades are from strongest to weakest: improved plow steel, mild plow steel, traction steel, and iron. Okay, wire rope is used where great strength is needed, like in standing rigging, halyards for large sails, and cable towing. What they'll do is they will splice a piece of line onto the end of the wire rope, and the wire rope holds the sail up while the line gives you something to hold on to. Stiff and difficult to work with. You need a marlin spike to work with it. Fid and marlin spike are the tools that are used for handling lines. A fid is a tool used to work on natural and synthetic lines. It's usually made of wood, plastic, or aluminum, so as not to damage the line while working on it. Marlin spike, it may look almost like a fid, but it's made out of steel for endurance. So this is a marlin spike, wooden handle and a spike on it. And this is a rigger's knife, and it has a marlin spike that folds into it. What I actually like to use when working with lines is a pair of needle nose pliers. As you can see, you can work them in between the strands of the 3-strand line. Then you can open them up to make the gap larger. And you can then grab another strand with the plier part and pull it back through. So it works really well. Okay, taking care of your lines. This is very important. Lines can be expensive. Do not overload them. Generally, safe working strength is 1/5 the breaking strength. Protect against abrasion. Always use chafing gear. And the chafing gear is secured to the line, because if the line is sliding around inside the chafing gear, it's being chafed by the chafing gear. So you want the chafing gear to take the wear. Avoid sudden strains. Keep them clean. Sand and dirt and grit will get into the strands and grind away the material. Wash them. This is rather a tangled mess. Is my main sheet for my sailboat. You can see that I whipped the end and used the heat shrink tubing, and it's I brought it home to wash it. It's very clean now. Oh, okay, coiling down lines. I don't know how to get rid of that. Coiling down lines, you can coil them down, you can Flemish them down with a circular spiral, or you can fake them down where they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You're going to see this again. Store your lines properly. Faking them, yes. Coiling them, Flemishing them, but not cording them, bunching them up and throwing them into a rope lock. Even when you do it wrong, there's a proper name for it. Don't cord your lines. I suppose that line back there is corded. Now, this is how you coil a line. Take one part in your hand and then loop the coils around and around like that. And when you have a little bit left, pass 1 or 2 turns around the middle part of the coil. Then you take a loop, pass the loop through the top loop of the coils, and run the end of it through that loop. Then you can use a hitch to attach this to a pipe or a railing. Match the line to the use. So that again, it's mooring lines or halyards. Keep all chemicals away, especially from synthetic lines. Avoid excess wear. Avoid exposure to sun and weather. Stow them out of the sun when possible, and avoid kinks and running over sharp edges. Okay, this is the different parts of a line. The working end is the end that you're actually going to be doing something with, putting in a loop, running it through the blocks, whatever. The bitter end is the opposite end of the line, which is generally attached to something. The standing part is the portion in between the working end and the bitter end. Then you've got an overhand loop and the underhand loop. Okay, knots, bends, and hitches. This is the exciting part. My philosophy is a sailor only really needs to know 8 knots. There are whole books on tying knots, but a sailor really only needs to know 8 of them. But she needs to know them well enough that she can tie them at midnight on a pitching foredeck during a full gale. So you need to know how to do this. A bend is a knot that joins 2 lines, and a hitch is a knot that attaches a line to an object. So the first one in our collection is the stopper knot. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate these here. I'm just going to show the pictures and describe them. But the figure of 8 knot is used to prevent a line or sheet from running out of a fair lead. If you're sailing along and the sail shifts and the line runs off to the side and is flapping out there over the ocean, you're not going to have a good time. So you tie a stopper knot in it, which keeps the line from getting away. A square knot or a reef knot. It's the most common way to join 2 lines of equal diameter together when no great load is anticipated. It's really good for tying bundles, sails, bundles of sticks, packages, whatever. A square knot will jam if heavily loaded, making it almost impossible to break it down without cutting it. And this is how you tie it. You make 1 overhand knot. Now the end that's underneath stays underneath. The end that's on top stays on top. And you tie another overhand knot. You'll hear people say, oh, right over left, left over right. That works really great. But this, to me, is a lot clearer. And you see how symmetrical that is. A bowline, spelled B-O-W-L-I-N-E, pronounced bowline, because sailors are weird. It's used to form a temporary loop in the end of a line. You're going to hear that again, too. It won't slip under load. It's easy to tie and untie. It's one of the most useful knots we have. And this is how it's done. You start with an overhand loop and have a working end 2 times as long as the loop you're going to want. Then you bring that around, put it through the overhand loop, under, over, under the standing part, over and under. And you back the way it came, and then you pull that snug. And there's the knot. It goes under, over, under, over, under. And it's very silly, but it works. And the mnemonic is that the rabbit comes out of the hole, goes around the tree, and back in the hole. And that's how people remembered how to do this knot. But then you can stand on this, you can loop it over a piling or over a cleat. You can wrap it around yourself. You can pull on it, it won't come undone. And then when you do want it to come undone, you pull this little part and toggle it down and the whole knot will come undone. A half hitch. This is used in conjunction with other knots, usually. A round turn of 2 half hitches is commonly used as a long-term fastening to secure a line to a piling. Remember that. So there's the round turn. It goes around in a circle and then halfway again to come out. And a round turn and 2 half hitches. It's used to go around. There's 1 half hitch. There's the other half hitch. It's easy to undertie under tension, and it's more permanent than the clove hitch, which we're going to discuss next. And the thing to remember about the 2 half hitches is you tie them sort of in reverse so that this part of the line crosses over. It comes around, crosses over, and then goes around the other way. Clove hitch. It's used to temporarily fasten a line to a piling or another attachment. You have to watch it so that it doesn't come undone. When it's under a strain, it won't slip. It's under a hard strain, it'll set up tight and may be difficult to break down. On the other hand, if it's leave it slack, it's going to work itself loose. And this is how it's done. You take the working end and you pass it under the standing part when on a vertical pole like this. And that way you're holding up the standing part. If you do it the other way around, the standing part will drop down and be difficult to get to. Then you go around again and put it under the standing part. So again, we've got under, over, under. And then you pull these 2 leads tight and you've got the knot. Another interesting one, which we call the a slipped clove hitch, or the bank robber hitch, because in the Western movies, you see the bank robber would tie his horse to the hitching rail with this, is take this piece, fold it, and put a bite in it, and push the bite underneath. Then you can grab the bite and pull, and the knot comes undone. Timber hitch. Now, I was going to put this in there, but I didn't have time today to try to practice it, so sorry. It's fast and easy knot to tie and break down. It's useful for towing logs or similar objects when you're in the water and need to get them out of the way. And this is how it's tied. It's in the manual also. You take 1 turn around the object, underneath, over the top, then under the part that's next to the timber, wrap it around 2 times and pull it snug. So you've got 2 turns here and then an eye sort of there. Pull that taut and that will grab the timber. A rolling hitch is used, it's tied around a line that's either already under strain or one where you want to put it under strain. You can use it to form a bridle for towing. Again, I haven't worked with this one that much, but you go around. This line here is under strain. So you take your second line, loop it around, and loop it around again, and then put in a half hitch. So you've got it once around, and then around again, and then out in a half hitch. Then you can pull that tight and you can take the load on your second line, and that will ease the load on this portion of the original line. The sheet or Beckett bend. I've heard that you said that the Beckett bend is made with an eye and the sheet bend is made with just with a bite in a line. I think anymore the 2 words are used interchangeably. Anyway, it's used to tie two lines of unequal diameter together. It's easy to break down after a heavy strain. And a double becket is an extra turn back and through. So here's the sheet bend. You make a bite in the thicker line, pass the thinner line through the bite, around it, and underneath, and then pull it tight. Or you can do it twice, and you've got a double becket bend. Again, this can be, you can do this one by putting a bite in this part of the finer line, tucking it under, and then you'll have a slipped becket bend, which can be released by pulling on it. Splicing. It's a preferred method of joining two lines. It is much stronger than a knot. An eye splice you use to make a permanent eye in the end of a line. Long splice is does not increase the diameter of the line, so you can join two lines together and then have them run through blocks. The short splice may increase the line diameter a little bit, but it's the preferred method of joining two lines together. I've done it. It's kind of fun, actually. And maybe the next time I do this presentation, I'll have a demonstration of that. Dipping the eye. They make a big deal out of this. It says when used when more than one vessel's mooring line is on the same piling. Your eye splice goes up through the other one, over the top and around the piling. Then when you want to undock, you lift your eye splice up over the piling and pull it through like that. So it works either way. If your piling is underneath and somebody comes along and puts theirs on top, you can thread your loop up through their eye and over the top of the piling and get it loose. Mooring devices, bits, bollards, cleats, and Samson posts. I'm grateful to the USS New Jersey Museum for having these pictures. Okay, bits are two posts like this used for mooring large vessels. You notice he figures 8, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then he's faked down the rest of the mooring line so that it'll run when he undoes it from the bit. That's a bollard, just a single bollard. A cruciform bollard, again, you can either drop an eye over that or you can figure 8 a line around it. Wildcat and capstan. A capstan is a winch with its axis vertical, and the Wildcat is made to handle anchor chain. It has notches, for lack of a better phrase, along the rim of it that the chain links will engage. A windlass is a horizontal winch. Cleats. They're found on boats and docks of all sizes. They're used to secure line on a boat or to a dock. The ratio of cleat size to line size is that 1 inch of length of the horn for each 1/16 of an inch of line size. So a cleat that is 3 inches long is made to take a 3/16 inch line. An 8-inch long cleat will take a 1/2 inch long line and on up. Making fast to a cleat. There are a lot of different ways to do it, so you need to ask your coxswain what he wants to do. Are you staying for a long time? Does he want to do it to keep your fingers out of the knot? It all depends. So a really quick wrap around or a long time, you have a full wrap. So you go all the way completely around the cleat, then over the top, back over the top the other way, then underneath, slip it over the horn so that this part is under and pull it tight. Again, you've got under, over, under. The other way to do it, this looks messy, but it is to go back, multi-wrap it, go back and forth 6 times. The advantage to this is that when you undo it, you keep your hand well away from the knot So if it snaps, you won't lose a finger. And this is the lark's head, where you take the eye, pass it through the hole in the bottom of the cleat, and loop it over the top. Okay, so now we've come to auxiliary chapter 4, and I've got to figure out a way of getting the pictures back. Whoops. Giving away the answers. Oh, there you all are. Okay, so all I've got is Bob and Jennifer and Sarah, and I don't think that Sarah really wants to answer all the questions. Bob, what do you suggest? Are you still there? Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read the questions and the answers.
Well, you can, Jennifer, are you game for trying to answer some questions or not really?
Sure.
Yeah, just pretend we're all students here.
Okay. Okay, Sarah, you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, do you remember the two types of natural fiber rope?
Manila and cotton.
Nice.
Okay, Jennifer, the advantage of manila line are it is
No, don't make Jennifer answer all the questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer, my bad, sorry.
Oh, and I'm trying to remember. Is it strong and flexible? Very
inexpensive.
inexpensive. Terrible. Okay. So
Okay.
strong.
Okay, Bob, manila line will
Snap.
nope deteriorate if stowed wet. Okay, Sarah, cotton line has a percentage of the strength of manila line.
It is less, but I can't remember the number.
Half the strength. Okay, the four types of synthetic line in common use. Jennifer, you remember these?
Ugh. No.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Nylon,
Nylon.
Dacron, polypropylene, and polyethylene. Okay, nylon line is, Bob, you should remember, nylon line is used for, because it is,
It's used for running rigging because it is flexible.
no, nylon line, not Dacron.
I
What
don't know.
is the real property of nylon line?
Stretches.
Yeah, mooring and towing because it's elastic.
Elastic.
Okay, Sarah, let's see if you remember this one. Why is nylon line dangerous?
Because it will snap when it is under its end of its rope.
You've got
End
it.
of its elasticity.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, now, okay, Jennifer, again, what are the characteristics of Dacron? You remember?
No, I knew the last question.
Yeah, okay, anyway, it's soft to
Okay,
handle
good.
and flexible, and requires no break-in. I'm not sure that actually ever turned up in any of the slides. Okay, Dacron differs from nylon in that it is not, answer this one.
And it's
Jennifer?
elastic.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this one didn't turn up because I needed to insert it, so I'm going to answer. What is the difference between polyethylene and polypropylene? Polypropylene is more rougher and it's stronger when wet. And it's not as slippery. That's what I meant to say. Okay, why is fiber used in the core of some wire ropes? Sarah, do you remember that?
It was for handling.
Hmm.
And I think it was some elasticity.
Yeah. Okay, flexibility, cushion, and lubricate it. Misspelled cushion. Oh well. Okay. Anybody want to try one of the 5 grades of wire rope?
Pass.
Okay. All right, let's see if I can remember. Improved plow steel, soft plow steel, traction steel and iron. Mild plow steel. Okay. So for those of you paying attention at home, there are 3 kinds of plow steel: improved, regular, and mild. And it's traction and iron. But yeah, I don't think they've used traction steel since Interurbans went out of business. So what everybody uses now is stainless steel, but this still shows up on the quiz. Okay, let's skip this because it's long and complicated. Don't overload it, protect against abrasion, stored properly, matched to use, avoid kinks and sharp edges. Okay, a clove hitch can be used to make a, Sarah,
Temporary.
temporary, got it. Okay, to temporarily join 2 lines of different diameters, you use a, Jennifer?
Say back at Ben. Say back at Ben.
Sheep pin.
Sheet,
Nice.
sheet bend, that works. Okay, a blank is preferred when permanently joining 2 lines together.
Splice? You lose me?
Splice, right. Okay, a blank is used when a temporary loop is desired. Sarah,
Olin.
right. To secure a line to a log for towing, you would use a, Jennifer?
No, I'm losing all of these right now.
Oh, okay, timber hitch.
You gotta think, what's another word for log?
To secure a line to a piling for a long time, the safest fastening to use would be a, Bob?
2 half hitches and round turn.
Correct. And what else?
Cleat?
What'd you say, Sarah?
I said a cleat.
Well, no, that's what you tie it to. No, round turn with 2 half hitches is the knot, but a bowline would also work, or spliced eye can also be used for that. Okay, anybody want to explain the use of a roll stopper rolling hitch?
Yeah, so your line doesn't leave the doesn't fly out of the, not the rigging, the
Okay, yeah, that's a stopper knot. Now this is, I think the rolling hitch is a knot that joins 2 lines. But you're right on the stopper knot. So yeah, it's used to maintain a strain on the
Oh.
line when the line is being moved or fastened. So it's a knot that you use to tie another line to a line so you can take the load off of it. Say you've got a vessel under tow and you want to move the cleat, so you tie a rolling hitch to the towing line, pull it taut, and then the part that is no longer under load, you can move to another cleat, say. Okay, when laying a long line down on deck where the full length must run out fairly rapidly, the line should be. Jennifer, do you want to try this one?
I know. Faked.
Okay, Bob,
Faked.
faked. And
or flaked, if that's how you learned how to say it.
flaked, or it's flaky, yeah, faked. Faked is how I, when it be, because there's no L in it. The 1C story I've got on this is that the life-saving service used to fire a cannon to ships in distress that carry a line to them, and they would fake down the line so that when the gun fired, it would peel off and go and go out to the ship, which is a heck of a way of doing business, but it worked, faked down. Okay, when might it be necessary to dip an eye on a bollard?
In the
Jennifer, But
You said, is that a mooring if there's already another?
yeah, when there's another, when the eye of your mooring line is under the eye of another boat. A blank will cause less reduction in line strength than any blank. Bob?
Splice?
Yeah,
Any not?
absolutely right. And that's the end of that. I'm sure you're thrilled. And this is what I always like to show people when I end this. This is a bunch of lines in use on U.S. Coast Guard cutter Eagle. And the small person running in front is my grandson. He was very impressed with the big boat. He was 3 years old at the time. No, 2 years old at the time. Okay, so are there any questions, comments, anything that we need to do here?
So before anything exciting happens, my recommendation would be to hit the stop recording button.
Yes, that was what
that's-
the next thing I was going to do if I could find that. And there it
Should
is.
be in the